Hello and welcome. You hear the term climate change all the time, right? It's on the news, it's on social media, it's everywhere. But what does it actually mean? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down: what it is, why it's happening, and what we can do about it. Okay, first things first, we need to clear something up that trips a lot of people up: the difference between weather and climate. The key thing to remember here is time. Weather is what's happening outside your window right now. Is it sunny? Is it raining? It's all very short term. Climate, on the other hand, is the big picture. It's the average weather pattern over many, many years. So think of it like this: a single hot summer day is weather, but a pattern of hotter summers year after year, now that's a change in the climate. So here it is, the official definition. Climate change is a long-term shift in the planet's average temperatures and weather patterns. Now, the Earth's climate has always changed over millions of years, but the changes we've seen since the 1800s, well, they're happening incredibly fast, and they're mostly driven by us, by human activities. Which, of course, leads to the really big question: why? Why is this happening? To understand it, let's look at the science. And a really helpful analogy is to think of it like a warming blanket. This whole process is called the greenhouse effect. And you know what? It's actually a completely natural and totally essential thing. Our atmosphere has certain gases that act like a cozy blanket around the Earth, or like the glass in a greenhouse. They trap just enough of the sun's heat to keep our planet warm enough for life to even exist. So the greenhouse effect itself, not the bad guy here. The problem is our activities are making that natural blanket thicker and thicker. We're pumping extra greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and that's trapping way too much heat. It's kind of like throwing another heavy wool blanket on your bed on an already warm night. You're going to overheat, right? Well, that's what's happening to our planet. So, what's causing this? What's thickening the blanket? Well, the main culprits are pretty clear. Number one is burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas for our power and transportation. Then there's deforestation. When we cut down forests, we're getting rid of the very trees that help absorb CO2. And finally, you have industrial processes and large-scale farming, which release other potent greenhouse gases. Okay, so we've established why it's happening. Now let's move on and look at how all this extra trapped heat is actually affecting our world. What are the real-world consequences? Scientists have tracked the rise in the planet's average temperature, and since the late 1800s, it's gone up by about 1.1 degrees Celsius. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. 1 degree? That doesn't sound like a lot. But on a global scale, it represents a huge amount of extra energy being added to our climate system. And that energy has to go somewhere. And that's where we see the consequences. That extra energy is supercharging our weather, leading to more frequent and much more intense heat waves, floods, and droughts. It's melting the massive ice sheets in places like Greenland and Antarctica, which causes sea levels to rise. Our oceans are also absorbing a lot of that CO2, which is making them more acidic and really dangerous for marine life. It's a whole chain reaction that threatens wildlife habitats and even our own access to food and water. And look, these impacts aren't just some abstract concept. They affect all life on this planet. For marine life, that acidic water makes it hard for things like corals and shellfish to even build their skeletons. For land animals, think of the polar bears losing their sea ice, which they need for hunting. It's even messing up the migration patterns of birds. And for us humans, the impacts are very real, from serious health risks to people losing their homes and threats to our food supply. Okay, so I know this all sounds pretty serious, and it is, but this brings us to the most important part of the conversation. What can we do about it? Because it's absolutely time for action. So what does this look like on a large scale? Well, here's the game plan. First, we have to switch our energy sources from fossil fuels to clean energy, like solar and wind power. Second, we need to protect and restore nature. Planting more trees is a big one. Third, just being smarter with our energy use, making our buildings and cars more efficient. And finally, this has to be a team effort. We need international cooperation through things like the Paris Agreement to make sure we're all working together. But this is definitely not just a job for governments and big corporations. The choices we make as individuals have a huge collective power. Simple things like reducing our waste, choosing to walk or take the bus, saving energy at home, and not wasting food, they all add up to a massive difference. And maybe the most powerful things you can do are to stay informed, talk to people about this, and use your voice and your vote to support leaders who take climate actions seriously.